Hello, Chain Gang, and welcome back to the Four Chains Travel. This week we are exploring Monopoli.
Monopoly is rapidly gaining in popularity for a couple good reasons. The first being that it lives up to its name, meaning a singular city, its uniqueness. And I feel this is deserved because just like the Monopoly board game, it has a little bit of everything. It is famed for both its fresh produce and its fresh seafood. It has one of the oldest and most famous gelato shops in the world. It has a very popular Panzerotti shop. It has a renowned fruiteria. It has churches with beautiful artwork, and it has one delightfully creepy church. It has a bustling seaport. It has the castle of King George V. It has, like all Italian cities, a beautiful community park. And it played an exciting and important economic role for centuries due to both its location and having one of the most important roads in the Roman Empire. The other reason it's gaining in popularity is that tourists have realized it is an excellent home base for a Puglia vacation of a week or less because of how close it is to some incredible places we have already visited. We already have a video on Alberobello, and you will not believe the ones we have coming on Poliano a Mare and Castellana Grotte.
If you see an herbarista or its competitor, right, it says cannabis store. There's no cannabis in there.
Fava beans, if you remember from the Amalfi video. Pretty sweet vegetables at pretty reasonable prices.
No one seems to disagree that both fruit and vegetables taste better in Italy than in the United States, but there is disagreement as to why. Some people believe that it's climate and soil, but most cooks and agriculture experts say that it's a matter of culture. In America, the emphasis is on yield and durability. In other words, it's a financial decision. Whereas in Italy, food is more important, part of life, and the emphasis is more on flavor.
I personally find myself eating a lot of vegetables and other produce in Italy that I only tried once or twice in the US and never again because I just didn't like them. And there's several examples of that in our cooking class video. I do buy blueberries a lot in the US, but they are a different animal here. They are just much sweeter, and the same thing with oranges and other fruit.
Okay, Leia's researched extensively and said this is the place she wants to get a very specific kind of gelato. We're going to go in here and check it out. Holy moly. Oh my goodness.
There are guidelines for picking the best gelateria in Italy, but there are no hard and fast rules.
Cafe Roma violates a couple of these guidelines. It has its gelato on display, which is a great marketing technique, but does not keep it as cold as if it was covered. And they also have more flavors than you would generally like in a gelato place. They get away with both of these because of their volume. There are advantages to being around since 1851. They also have many local bakery treats, as you can see here, and I noticed a lot of people were ordering them, particularly these rum breakfast treats. But their main attraction, of course, is their limoncello gelato, and we had to try it.
Normally I would not get limoncello, but that's the specialty of the house, so I got it. Okay, the limoncello is great. They have tables out here that's essentially in a park. Leia also got the limoncello, and you did not get any? Oh, what did you get? Oh, bene.
Cafe.
Now, cafe is an espresso. If you want a cafe like an American coffee, you want to order a cafe americano. We have a little bit of what we had in Lecce. We got some of the old town. You can see that this church is obviously very beautiful. Not as ornate as you would find in some of the other churches that have more Baroque, and you've got the tower, but then you turn around and it gradually gets more and more modern as they purchase it. So, this side of the church, they of course have a trinket shop here, and I'm sure they actually sell stuff, which is kind of scary. And then you come around from the trinket shop, and the further you get away from the centro storico, the more modern everything gets.
We did go in that church, which is dedicated to the Virgin Mary, and it is beautiful inside, that's for sure. It is both the official cathedral of Monopoli and Conversano, which is a town very nearby. It was built in 1107 and took 10 years to create, but there's another church closer to it that I was a little more fascinated with. And that is this church, which we weren't allowed to go inside, which seemed like a shame. It looks very pretty at first glance and tons of kids playing around. But when you look closer, you realize all of the images are creepy. Statues, mythical beasts and monsters and the like.
This is a very ornate door. It sort of reminds Leia of Day of the Dead, the celebration in Mexico that we keep missing by a week. Lots of skeletons and other symbols.
You'd think the interior would be different, but it's not. It's skeletons from what we could peek, except they're dressed up, you know, 'cause it's church.
Okay, the name of this church is Santa Maria del Suffragio. Santa Maria of Suffering, and presumably without their skin or organs, they're indeed suffering.
You can see the beautiful plants that people decorate the exterior of their homes and businesses with here in Centro Storico, and it's really one of my favorite parts of Monopoli. It's quite a stunning sight to see, and as you exit this area, you begin to come into Monopoli's most famous part, which is the port area.
Monopoli's port section is very unique in Italy. It's different than other port cities like Bari and Gallipoli and Otranto, which have a lot of great aspects, and we can't wait to bring you videos from there. But those cities made the port based on whatever factors the city had to offer where it could accommodate ports. In Monopoli's case, they built 4 separate navigational ports first, and then built the city around the ports. Those ports are known as the 4 coves: Porto Vecchio, Batteria, Fontanelle, and Curatori, and they all serve different purposes. For example, the fishermen tend to dock their boats, and their boats are known as gozzi, at Porto Vecchio. The castle of King Charles V. Well, they were setting up for a Picasso exhibit at the time, so we couldn't get in, but it is part of the fascinating history of the city of Monopoli, which is actually my favorite part of the town, and we're going to be going over that at the end of this video. I will tell you this was shaped like a pentagon, so it could defend sea attacks from all angles. It was finished in 1525 and was used as a jail. When the jail closed in 1969, so did the castle, and astonishingly, it remained closed until the 1990s when it reopened for historians and also for tourists, and as you can see, for beautiful, unforgettable Italian weddings.
Okay, Leia brought us down an alley, and as we say many times, if you're at a tourist destination, you turn around and see a restaurant, don't go there, go down the alley. I was supposed to get the Panzerotti of the day, so I did, but Maria has a lot more.
We have one more.
I ordered.
But someone else too. Should be.
Oh, bracciola. Actually, focaccia, even though it actually looks a little like Panzerotti.
Okay.
And what's on this one?
Onion.
Con cipolle, con onion.
Classic.
Oh, bracciola. Oh. This is a classico, Panzerotti classico e Panzerotti bracciola, no?
Yeah.
Grazie. Arrivederci. Buona giornata. Right here, Palo Santo This is a happy hour place. As you can see, they sell different spritzes, but it is sort of like London in though there's very few tables. And just like in London, if you saw our London videos, which I hope you did, I worked very hard on them, they drink their spritzes out here and enjoy the company. See? Grazie. Buona giornata. Viva l'Italia!
The one downside of Monopoly's ports being constructed, keeping in mind defense and commerce, is that they didn't keep in mind future tourism hundreds of years later. So there's not as many restaurants right on the port with that kind of view. They certainly make up for it with all of these restaurants with outdoor seating in the historic center. We passed through a lot of those restaurants as we strolled the historic center, but we didn't stop at any of them because Leia had her heart set on something a little more health-oriented, and that was this fruteria. I'm not saying this is a better choice. What I'm saying is, if you're staying in Italy for months during each year, this is a good way to switch it up and get a little something different and very, very tasty.
Leia recommended this fruity restaurant to get fruit smoothies. You can get a coperta di frutta, with just a cup of fruit, or you can get a frullati, which is a smoothie that she will make it with milk or water, or you can get a centrifugati, and that's like a smoothie, but there's no water or milk at it. So look at that. Oh my goodness, that looks good. Grazie mille. Grazie.
There is something very satisfying to watching her take all of that fresh fruit right out of the make line and make your smoothie or whatever version that you get. A quick piece of advice, we saw long lines at this place on a few occasions. We went on the time we went because that's what the internet recommended, and I advise you do the same.
So that is the centrifugati because it's literally just squeezing juice. No water added. I don't even think they do it in the blender. That's pretty cool. Centrifugati. That's got to be good for you. So here is the end result that Leia got. And so it is a little bit thicker. You get the same amount of glass, same size glass, and it's only 50 cents more to have total fruit. But you can see I did enjoy the smoothie with water because by the time hers was finished, I had completely consumed mine. So now Angie's getting one.
Like every Italian city, Monopoli has a community park. And like every Italian city, theirs is different. It is much larger than you would expect in comparison to a city of this size, but it is also very beautiful and certainly a lot of time to relax and enjoy the aesthetics of it and just have a nice passeggiata, a nice stroll after a meal. Another thing that's different about this park is that they have two monuments to the fallen. There's this one, and you will see at least one in 90% of the community parks around Italy. And then this is the other one. They certainly respect the soldiers that sacrificed everything so we can have everything. And like most towns, they do it in a very respectful but beautiful way. So as you're seeing, and I said in the introduction, Monopoli does have a little bit of everything, and I have to tell you, the littlest of those bits is the beach. This is it. There is only a small section that I consider suitable for having a swim and strolling out in the ocean, because the rest of it has quite a deep set of rocks that really prevent you from enjoying it. So they have a beach, but I wouldn't go to Monopoli for this.
Jim is anxious to talk about the history of Monopoli and the grand finale of this video, but I want to touch on a couple historic churches first. This one here is dedicated to St. Francis of Assisi, and it has the reputation as being the second most beautiful church in Monopoli. But I don't think it holds up to the Santa Maria della Madia we showed you earlier. Maybe I'm missing something here, or maybe it's just personal preference, but I definitely found Santa Maria della Madia to be much more ornate and breathtaking, with the color scheme in particular. I found myself enjoying Santa Maria Amalfitana a bit more. It certainly isn't as ornate or breathtaking, but it has some underrated charm in its simplicity and some beautiful artwork to enjoy as well. I think part of the reason is because the church itself is kind of a monochromatic color scheme, and then you have the artwork that just pops a little bit more because of the background.
To fully appreciate the exciting history of Monopoli, we must return to the port. And that is because for centuries, the sea was the economic lifeblood of almost every advanced civilization. And we all know that economic lifeblood seems to be at the center of every significant war during this time. And that brings us to Via Traiana. Via Traiana is the second most important road in the Roman Empire to the Appian Way. It goes from Benevento all the way through Bari, Poliano, and its largest stretch is in Monopoli, and that is also its destination. If you know the name Trajan, it's probably because of Trajan's Arch that is located in Rome. This route is considered one of Trajan's biggest accomplishments, and the people certainly benefited from the economic largesse that resulted. Of course, eventually Rome fell to the barbarians. That's a different video for a different person. But afterwards, the barbarians used it as a route for their economy. And eventually the same thing happened for the Byzantines and the Normans and the Hohenstaufen. And the reason they did this is because controlling monopoly meant that you could control the money, and the money is how you can control and win the wars, and that's the goal that everybody eventually had. And that is also why, if you remember the castle of King Charles V, why it was built to be so formidable. In fact, until Charles V took it over in a peaceful transfer of power, he tried to take it over by war from the sea, but it turned out to be the only town he could not conquer by the sea. So, the question becomes, should you conquer monopoly? Does it deserve its growing reputation? I would say it is a singular city. It is the only city that actually has a little bit of every single thing you might want in an Italian visit. However, being a jack of all trades, it's kind of a master of none. It has ports, but there's better ports. It has restaurants, but there's better restaurants. It has parks. You get the idea. If you're only in Puglia for a short time, this is a way you can get everything in. But if you have a longer visit, I would only consider Monopoli a day trip, and I would spend more time in some of the other cities. And guess what? We are going to be profiling those other cities like Poliano a Mare that you see here. And then we are going to show you the amazing Castellana Grotte, which you see here. So we'll see you next time on the Four Chains Travel.